Okay. All right, I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee meeting for Thursday, December 14th, 2023. Counselor Greenspan will not be in attendance. First order of action is the approval of the September 14th, 2023 minutes, which I believe we need to table again because we would need Counselor Greenspan to approve those. So we will, do we need to vote to table it again?
Table
So I'll
Move
table
to
it.
table, approval of the minutes for September 14, 2023.
Now second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to item 2, approval of minutes from the October 12th, 2023 Finance Committee meeting.
Move to approve.
And I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next is the approval of the 2024 Finance Committee meeting dates.
Okay. So, yeah, as you can see, we have those dates. We're still staying along with the guideline of the second Thursday of the month preceding the council meeting.
Okay.
Yep, that seems to work, so.
Okay,
good
yep.
for you.
Move to approve.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Next is the update on the Special Revenue Fund.
Okay. So we have in the special revenue, just highlighting some of the areas of interest. You can see we're kind of going at the same patterns we have in the previous months. Noting that on the asset forfeiture, 300,000, a large balance there. Police department's working on a major purchase of ammunition and so forth for the department. So you'll see that deplete probably the following month. We're looking at the tune of over $100,000 in a purchase for that. Also pointing out on the, where it's noted number 2, a small dollar amount, but we did get a second round of funds from the NIPS money. We have an additional $12,600 in there, so we'll have to come up with some thoughts on how to expend that. The one expense is the big belly we had talked about in the past.
And that is already covered with prior,
Prior NIP money, yes.
it's amazing how much.
It really is. Yeah, good source. Fire calls, I'm just pointing that out to keep it separate from, it tends to roll into the ARPA, giving it its own line so we can watch it independently. The timing, again, on that tends to be about a 30 to 60 day delay in there. Chief has some purchases that he'd like to come forward on that, and I'll share when he's prepared to.
Okay.
I think we've heard about the transmitters and so forth, so we'll see what he has in more detail. Private duty, that is one marked number 4, is in a negative stance at this point, and that's, again, a timing of collections. As of actually just looking at the updates of deposits, we've received about $85,000 through December, so it will pick up when the receivables catch up at year end. We do a receivable to match them in the fiscal year.
So how does that work, Mona? So just to interrupt you on that, sorry. On the private duty, so when an officer does a shift to private duty, there is the timing on this that they're entitled to compensation with their next paycheck, but then you'll wait for reimbursement and come back later from the contracting party? Is that how that works?
Actually, the officer gets paid in the normal payroll.
So that's what I
It's
meant,
charged
yeah.
to this fund and correct, and at times, it may be, I don't want to pick on a vendor, but one vendor has, signed up for a month of traffic duty, then they'd be billed at the end of the month and then have the 30 days to pay. So it tends to,
So it lags a little bit?
it does,
Okay.
it does.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And is that a break-even aspect, or do we actually make a profit, so to speak?
We ideally would make a profit, and you'll start seeing it as it builds a little bit closer toward the end of the year. The billing is not on the actual hourly rate of that officer, it's on a blended, so depending on, who does the service, that's kind of where the balance comes out, and we do build in a cushion for employee benefits. So the first, sign that we get some kind of a profit in there, we'll take, at least we try to take $100,000 of employee benefits out of general fund and apply it to that.
Okay. And are there ever collection issues with that?
There has been. There's been a few. We'll send them out to the town attorney and do a collection notice. So, not as many considering the dollar amount. We've had just a couple, and they have come through. I don't think I have any pending unpaid at this point in collection.
Okay, thanks.
Does the rate also include some type of a surcharge for administrative overhead? Because we have this additional work that's associated with the billing and the following up sometimes and the like.
Well, our goal is to have that the blended rate would compensate for that. So for example, if you had an entry-level officer come in versus a higher, that the blended rate will do it, but we don't build a percentage for overhead on it. So employee benefits plus blended.
It seems like it's something we should be looking at. I mean, the blended rate is just supposed to cover the personnel costs, and that's it.
Yes,
So it's because you can't predict in advance the seniority of the officer is gonna be deployed. I understand that.
right.
So you have a number there for compensation and benefits, but we had this additional work that's associated with this, which is for the benefit of the vendor. It seems like something should be built in for that, and a little bit as a hedge against some collection loss. We haven't had any losses recently, you said, but there's that
I agree.
possibility as well. So how are these rates established?
They are established every year, so when we get the new budget year, so come July 1, that they'll create a new, and it's usually based on the salary, but we do have the opportunity to build in an overhead, and I'm making a note of that right
No, but I
now.
mean, when you say they set it every year, you mean the town
Police-
manager does it as a budget item internally here?
No, because it's a special revenue fund, so it's not coming through our general budget process.
Okay.
But the special revenue, because it's being billed from the police department, will send something to finance and say, these are the new rates. We confirm that that's what's in the union contract. We'll tell them how much the employee benefit cost is. So it's more of a formula. We don't have a overhead built in, but I don't imagine why we could not.
So what would be the process for looking into that and or perhaps implementing it? Like, whose decision would that be?
Definitely, we've started it right here. We could
Okay.
come through, this is definitely the avenue.
Okay.
So when it gets created, it would come through finance, town manager,
Right.
and we'll present it that way, that we want to increase it and include an overhead.
Jeff, think it's something that we should be pursuing?
Yeah, so, and even piggybacking, besides that, also, also use of the police vehicles during these, do we get?
Correct.
Do we get money for that as well, or is that,
It is not, and again, and that could,
so we should definitely be getting for wear and
would give
tear?
us a better overhead rate.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we should
Yeah.
look into incorporating those, and there's other hidden costs that we're not even factored, but just those two alone would,
Yes,
seems to make sense.
I
so.
agree.
Okay, great.
Can I circle back to one of the other line items you talked
Sure.
about, which is the asset forfeiture? And we built up more than $300,000. So you talked about an outlay of $100,000. Is that all for ammunition?
It is, and I'm sure I won't do it justice, but yeah, it's not just bullets, it's the ammunition, and it's the vests and so forth, so anything that's coming from that division. So they have guidelines within the asset forfeitures that they can use it for various things, and it's always like investigation type related, and so yeah, I think they have a plan. It's ammunition. I think there were some vests involved with that, and you're looking at the entire force, so it added up quite fast.
Is there an opportunity to use any of those funds for hard assets like vehicles?
Oh, absolutely, and
Good.
it has. So if this ends up being after the 100,000, and again, this is a moving target. Poor choice of words on a police grant, right? But the moving target.
I see what you did there.
So as they are submitting, their police cases, and it gets reviewed again, it's going through state levels, in some cases higher levels, and we're getting our portion. So there's always additional revenues coming in as the investigators are putting in. So definitely vehicles.
And are we approaching a need for any police vehicles to be replaced? I mean, are we getting to that point? I don't know how that's being tracked.
Yes, well, we're trying to track it as best as we can at this point. We did, actually, we're able to take two vehicles that I guess we'd say were repurposed, so we put them through to the SROs. So we had those that were going to leave the regular road force, but then with the SROs to take all of the caging equipment out and repurpose them. So we were able to, take care of a need for the additionals, but they have additional officer coming in because, we're having all this transition of retirements and so forth. So we'll probably have a need for one or two additional.
Vehicles, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if this is the forum to raise it, but I mean, it's something that we've touched on over the years recently is potentially transitioning to electric vehicles. And if there's potentially a pot of money here for special assets, and I know the electric vehicles, it entails charging stations, there's infrastructure that goes with that, procedures and the like. But if there's some, if there's potentially a pot of money here to maybe kickstart that process, I think that's a conversation we ought to be having.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if Eversource has programs maybe for the charging stations and things of that nature, or other programs from the state, either for the charging stations and/or the vehicles themselves. And,
Right, because the vehicle would fit into the realm of these funds, of course, a
Yeah.
charging station would not. Again, it's a kind of a very, narrow area that they can do the purchase, but a
Okay.
vehicle, yes.
Right.
And
But
the
there may be
station would
other-
Be our own.
Yeah, there may be other programs outside of this that would
yeah.
go toward the charging, level 2 charging station at the police force for a couple vehicles. And, yeah, so maybe that's something to start thinking about, because I know, and the lead time has got a lot better on these now. So before it was like you're waiting months and months and months, and now you can get things pretty reasonably time frame. So it may be time to revisit, see if it makes sense.
I'll put it out.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm
Let's
sorry to
see.
derail you. I think the last, we were talking about the NIP money, where were we? We were.
Oh, right.
private
we're
duty.
Private
Oh,
duty.
private duty, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have two remaining. These are just grants, and again, timing issues. We have the Silas Dean Streetscape project, looking for state reimbursement. They're just reviewing the project. And Straska Farm, again, invoices going in and reimbursements get reviewed by state. That is again, a time lag on there, and in some cases, several months. So you will see that one opened the year with a negative, and we're still waiting for the funds to come in. The review process is quite entailed on those projects.
So, Maureen, just remind me, when we have a negative balance, is that being covered by the general fund or other special revenue accounts, or?
No, it will stay here in the special revenue, and because there is, in these cases, there's an award, so we know that the funds are available. It's on a timing issue, so the general fund won't get involved. In
Right.
fact, it's in our best practice to keep them separated.
You're right.
Have an award, have the expense and the revenue, and they never mesh.
Gotcha.
So that's why you see a lot of these extra funds, for that exact purpose, to never mesh them together.
Right. Very good. Okay. Any other questions?
No, thank you for the report.
Okay. Let's see, where do we go? Special revenue. So next up is Reserve for Capital Non-Recurring Expenditure Fund through November 30th.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to kind of zero in toward the lower half. Not a lot of excitement going on the upper half. We've got some field use money that's coming in. Again, those are the fees that we're charging. Not a lot of expenditures on there. We did do the reval expenditure out. Obviously, we're right in the midst of the reval process. They're just pointing out on the Board of Ed section that we have a lot of expenditures there. If you're noticing the balance, we have the negative 474. And again, with these reimbursement, this seems to be following us on the agenda tonight. This is the school roof, the middle roof, school roof, and the paperwork was actually submitted, I believe, this week to be final review. So we should be getting reimbursement for that. That would definitely exceed the 474 expenditure there. And we have a goal that it's around that 46% reimbursement, which should bring us more to around the $700,000 to $800,000. Again, they've got to look at all totals and make sure everything is eligible cost. So I tend to stay on the conservative 700.
Okay. Any questions?
No, thanks, Jim.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to state aid to municipalities for the 2023-24 budget.
Okay. So, as you can see here, we are already receiving some of our pilot money. Let me look at we've got municipal revenue sharing. I just wanted to point out that that's that last line item, the 525. We had budgeted the 221 and have recently received an additional dollar amount. I would tend to be happy with that, but I want to research a little bit further to find out if this was a planned excess. So before I spend that difference, I'm reaching out to the state. I have not gotten a response back yet, but we'll definitely have something for you on that. So there is an excess, which could be favorable at this point. I want to look into it further.
That's interesting.
It is.
Don't get too excited yet.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't. I'm like, I'm not expecting this. And Maybe they're reimbursing me for one of my grants.
Okay. All right, any questions?
Nope.
Move on to the monthly financial report.
Okay. So I have a high-level summary for the financials through November. The revenues are definitely on target. You can see the tax revenues on their page, that three-year benchmark. So we're at 57.76, and there it should be 57.81, actually vice versa. So, I mean, we get pretty close to target there. The prior year collections are actually higher than last year, which is a good sign for us. Sometimes we have the tendency after a tax sale year to have priors tend to be on the low side. So the fact that this is coming in a bit ahead of the prior is positive. Touch base on the state revenues. Interest is again, definitely ahead of target. And that's a result, as we've done in the past, of the CD laddering, particularly the first half of the year when the revenues are available. Conveyance was a slight bit lower, but we did have, again, they all seem to come in December, not in my November report. We had a nice, about $8,000, but it was additional that we were not planning for. I think it was a large conveyance. I'd probably best to not recall the particular company, but it was an additional amount that will help that bring it to target. On the expenditure side, we do have, not that they're large overages, but if you're looking through and just seeing percentages and lines that may stand out, I wanted to touch on those, that you can see some overtime lines, for example, and the tax and assessor personnel. Those are smaller dollar amounts, but those are vacancies during a busy phase, and I believe at this point they should all be filled. Police communications had some vacancies, so that particular line is at 90%. Again, not one of the largest overtime lines, but just pointing out. I'll jump down to pointing out tree service. That is already over budget at this point. Parks Department is aware of that. Their intention is to covering that with any other lines that they have during the year. They think they can still fit into the bottom line of their page. So, although they're aware of it and it will continue, they're prepared to cover that.
How did that happen?
Well, not being the tree specialist, but I think they've definitely just had a lot more calls, down trees, overgrowth, trying to put them, back, so, or cut them back, not put them back. So,
And are those fees we're paying a third party to do as opposed to internal?
right, yes, these would be those, the larger ones where they have to have someone come out.
I mean,
and
are
do
the
it.
rates higher than we budgeted, originally anticipated at budget time, you think?
The
or-
frequency is greater than budgeted.
So that's work that we do some in-house and some we contract out?
Yes, and this particular line over is the outsource portion of it. I know his staff will do whatever they can from the in-house, but there's the larger ones when they have the big.
Sure.
One question about the overtime, like for the police and so forth, because due to communication, due to vacancies. So we're in overtime, but I imagine we're below on salary because of
Correct.
the vacancy, so
Yes.
somewhat offsetting.
It will offset.
Okay.
I just wanted to point out any of those. I'm trying to highlight some of the things that might catch your eye, and
Yep, no, that's good.
so if there's any that I didn't touch on that caught your eye, I'm open for questions.
Trying to blow it up here. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's November. It's still early enough to
Yeah.
see some things vary, but not a lot of overages or areas of concern.
Anything for other?
I did bring our update from MDC. They gave us our ad valorem numbers for next year. It's early, but we're doing about a 1.7% increase, which is actually, what is my notation, about $57,000 higher than last year. So that's actually favorable news for a $3 million line. We went from like 3.3 million, 3.2 to 3.3. Yeah, so not bad.
Not bad.
Good news from MDC.
Okay. Great.
Move to adjourn?
Yes. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.